What's going on, guys? Welcome to the first episode of Monster Jam Tonight, a weekly recap of all things Monster Jam. We're also going to look ahead to the next week of Monster Jam. I'm John Sartori. I run the Instagram Monster Jam Updates. Go follow if you haven't, and subscribe to the YouTube. So we're going to talk about June 6th, Valencia, Spain, the first ever show in Valencia. And next week, you got 3 shows. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We're staying in Spain, in Madrid. And then, of course, Path of Destruction kicks off in East Rutherford, New Jersey. So let's get started talking about Valencia, Spain. It was the first ever show in Valencia, Spain. And it saw, I should say, a lot of the more Monster Jam circuit drivers on there. Out in Valencia, as well as George Belhan and JP Ruggiero driving El Diablo and Mohawk Warrior. So 10 trucks, and the overall event champion of the night was Morgan Kane and Mags D, who was the freestyle winner there. And the night started out with El Diablo winning the wheelie competition, and then Max D was the fast qualifier and lost in the semifinals to eventual champion Mohawk Warrior and George Belhan, who George Belhan, I believe it was his first stadium racing win of 2015, first in a while too. So it was nice to see him get a win. I did not have him winning. I thought it was a pretty big upset considering the season that he's had, being able to go out there and get the win. And then the donut competition, JP Ruggiero really had a really good night. He won kind of the, I call them minor events, kind of the events you usually see in arenas. He won wheelie, and then he won the donut competition. And then we got to freestyle, and I was really surprised at how freestyle turned out. Morgan Kane and Max D, I believe I had him winning, but then you look at who finished below him. It was Becky McDonough and El Toro Loco, who hasn't done a stadium freestyle in over a year, and she finished second. She'd only won one freestyle competition all year in an arena, so for her to go out there and only lose by 2 points was really impressive. And then Darren Basil, a guy who's never really been known as a threat for a freestyle trophy. He has one stadium racing trophy in his career, and that was back in 2009 in St. Louis when he drove El Matador. And he hasn't really been close to anything else in his career, and he finished third. So he got on the podium in Valencia. So I was really impressed with those guys. Then Dalton Milliken and Blue Thunder finished fourth. And then a tough break for Cody Saucier. He finished last. He blew a motor as soon as he got out there in Monster Energy. So the first show in Valencia, absolute success. I have some videos on the YouTube from that show in Valencia. But George Belhan did really well. The surprise of the week for me, though, was either JP Ruggiero or Becky McDonough. So pretty big upsets there. So I was surprised with that, and I was happy to see that. Looking ahead to next week, I'm very excited, as every Monster Jam fan should be, that Path of Destruction is here. I mean, you got a stacked lineup. Dennis Anderson, Neil Elliott, Adam Anderson, Lindsey Wing, Todd LeDuc, the list goes on and on, Damon Bradshaw, and Scott Buteau. This is, I think, personally, the best Path of Destruction lineup they've ever had. We're also going to see some independents, I believe, for the first time on Path of Destruction, besides Team Scream. We're going to get Exterminator and Ice Cream Man out there, as well as Stone Crusher. So it's nice to see that we're going to have some independents out there. I'm excited. Looking ahead, it depends on the track for racing. Neil Elliott has been great in these on the Fox Sports 1 tour. He had a pretty nice run in Vegas for freestyle. But the driver that I'm going to be looking at is probably going to be Scott Buteau, who I feel like he's digressed this year when it comes to freestyles. I'm not seeing him go for it the way that he had in the past, but I think this can be a great opportunity for him to really put his name back on the map out there in East Rutherford. And then Lindsey Wink is coming off a win in Salinas, California, racing for Team Zombie. So he's hot, as well as Todd LeDuc, who won in Levi's Stadium last time he was out. So I don't like really making predictions that early before I get a chance to look at the track and all, but that's what I'm looking for out of those drivers. Now, when it comes to Madrid, Spain, I believe we're having the same lineup. Yeah, same exact lineup from Valencia goes to Madrid. So what I'm going to be looking for, as you got the same 10 trucks, George Bellhand, can he keep it going in Mohawk Warrior? I don't believe he can. I think that Cody Saucier, who lost in the finals to him, is going to go out and have a huge weekend. He had a tough break. He is a rising superstar in this sport. Next year, when the regular season comes around, if he can get into some stadiums, he's going to pull off some high-profile victories next year in Monster Energy. Colton Eichelberger had a really, really tough night in Valencia. I want to see how he bounces back. I was really impressed with his Vegas run in Gravedigger. I want to see how he can do in Madrid. In his this will be his third stadium freestyle, as he only scored at 18 in Valencia. I'll be interested to see how he does. Becky McDonough, can she keep it going? And Dalton Milliken, I was surprised he didn't do better on the more Monster Jam tour, as some of the highlights he had were incredible. I was surprised he wasn't more up there in the point standings, but he had a really nice run and almost a really nice save in Valencia, so I want to see how he does. I don't think he'll win, but I think he'll get on the podium again in Madrid. The last show of the weekend next week is Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, so that's a concrete floor, I believe, and not a great lineup. The truck that I'm really looking forward to is Monster Mutt and Dustin Brown, as I'm going to read you the lineup. We got Gravedigger, Randy Brown, Carolina Crush and Gary Porter, Monster Mutt, Dustin Brown, Scooby-Doo, and Brianna Mahon, who's really coming into her own in these past few weeks after winning Rookie of the Year, when I really thought it should have been handed to only Colton Eichelberger. And then Heavy Hitter, River Rat, Straight Jacket, and Gunslinger. I think that it's going to be a Monster Mutt versus Gravedigger weekend. Randy Brown had a pretty nice weekend in Halifax, Nova Scotia a few weeks ago. I was impressed with him, as he didn't have a great 2015 regular season or winter tour. But Dustin Brown, I'm going to go off on a limb here and say that he is going to take every single event in Myrtle Beach next week, and that is actually an event that is occurring at a speedway. So I don't know, I'm trying to remember if that's a Halifax kind of deal where they race on the actual tarmac, or if they race on the infield. I'll have to look that up, and I'll post that on the Instagram what that is in the upcoming days of that event. That's a 3-show weekend, I believe. No, just a 2-show weekend. One Thursday and one Friday. Thursday night and Friday night. So we'll be back at Monster Jam Updates on a Thursday night, and I'm excited. It's good to be back, that we're having events back to back to back now. And that was today. Monster Jam was on today on Fox Sports 1, and I didn't even realize it, so that is a shame. I would have definitely enjoyed that. Alright, so something I'm going to do on Monster Jam tonight is get some questions from you guys, and we only got one this week, and it was from the Racing Genius, and he asked if I could add one stadium to the tour, what would it be and why? Well, I'm going to name two, but I'm ultimately going to go with one because of the impact that the one stop would have. The first one is the one that I don't think I'm going to stick with, and that would be moving the Tampa show from Raymond James Stadium into Tropicana Field. And the reason that is one, it's always raining there. It's always raining in Tampa. Not as much as Jacksonville, but you can't move the Jacksonville show anywhere else. There's nowhere to move it besides the arena in Jacksonville. And you aren't going to go from a stadium to an arena. But in Tampa, you'd move the Tampa show to St. Petersburg, which is nearby. And then you'd have a baseball. It's a very similar stadium to Chase Field in Phoenix. And you'd have a huge floor, much like you would in Raymond James, but you're indoors, and I think it would make for a better show. Lots more room than Raymond James, as the baseball fields have shown. It provides a more interesting freestyle course because you can put obstacles anywhere you want, and you'd never have to worry about the rain. So that's where I'd put it. That's where I'd want one of the shows to be. But ultimately, because of the history in Raymond James and the history in Tampa, you are not going to mark out Raymond James. You're definitely not going to put two Tampa shows in different venues. You already have, I think, 3 a year in Raymond James. You're not going to put one in Raymond James and say 2 in St. Petersburg. You're going to have them all in the same place. But ultimately, this is the one that I really want, is Los Angeles, California, and the StubHub Center, which is the home of the LA Galaxy. And they play soccer there. And soccer, as Monster Jam has shown in the past, they have to cut off half the stadium because it's such a huge floor. And if you can imagine, they've had X Games rally competition in this building, freestyle motocross in this building. It would be an incredible show if they put Monster Jam back in Los Angeles, because it's been, I think, 2 years since they've had Monster Jam in Los Angeles, and it was at Dodger Stadium. And I thought it was a terrible idea from the start because there was no way they were going to get an extended contract to be in Dodger Stadium. There was no way, because it's such a historic site. You put Monster Jam back in Los Angeles where it's never raining, and the one time it has in 8 years in Los Angeles was the first ever Los Angeles show, which was ridiculous back in 2010 or 11. But you put it in the StubHub Center, a huge floor. You get all your West Coast trucks out there. You get to add another West Coast show, which is great because you have like 6 a year, and 5 of those are in Anaheim, it seems. Seems like every week you got a show in Anaheim. You can put one of those in Los Angeles, get the fan base up there in Los Angeles. Everyone's going to go to Monster Jam. That's a given. You're going to be able to sell that place out. So that is ultimately where I would put another stadium show, is the StubHub Center in Los Angeles, California. All right, well, before I get out of here for this week, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Monster Jam. Used to be Monster Jam Opinions, is now Monster Jam Updates on Instagram. Follow my personal Instagram at Not The Fake John Sartori. There's no Monster Jam stuff on there, but I take some good pictures. Yeah. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube. For all things Monster Jam, I'm really going to start keeping up with this, putting a lot of videos on here, not just the podcast. I'm going to put most of the videos that are on Instagram on this YouTube, because I know that not everyone has Instagram, but a lot more people have YouTube. So make sure to subscribe. Leave comments in the caption below for questions you may have for next week's episode, as well as comments, concerns on this episode. And you can also leave your comments on the Instagram page. So that'll do it for the week of June 6th, 2015. We'll see you next week right here on Monster Jam tonight. Thanks, guys.